They priced her at 3,000 silver marks. That was the value Alara's parents placed on her life, less than the price of a plow horse.
Why?
Because the village seer, Madame Corva, whispered one word that ends a she-wolf's existence before it even begins. Cursed. In a world where bloodlines are destiny, Alara was considered a blight. She stood on that auction block, shivering in the cold drizzle of a Shenvale, waiting to be sold to the cruelest bidder. But just as the gavel was about to fall, a low, commanding voice cut through the crowd like a blade. The Alpha King didn't want a breeder. He wanted her. And he was about to tear the kingdom apart to find out why her parents lied. The rain in Shenvale was relentless, hammering against the slate roofs of the Grand Market, but the atmosphere around the auction platform was colder than the storm overhead. Alara Virel stood in iron shackles, her bare feet slipping on the rain-slicked wood. The burlap sack they dressed her in clung to her thin frame, threadbare and torn at the shoulder. Every breath she took was shallow, visible in the frigid air. Across the platform, Varek Duskran adjusted his velvet cuffs with a slow, theatrical motion that made Alara's stomach twist. He was a merchant of flesh, a man who smiled while he sold children and broken wolves to the highest bidder. Standing in the front row of the crowd were her parents, Garrick and Maelys Varel. They didn't look worried. They looked relieved. Garrick checked his pocket watch, a silver piece he'd purchased after trading Alara's younger brother's belongings for coin when the boy died. His face was carved from stone, his eyes devoid of warmth. Well, Garrick barked, his voice cutting through the murmur of the crowd. Get on with it, Varek. The spring tithe is in 3 days. We need to settle this and move on. Maelys stood beside him, her arms crossed, her lips pressed into a thin, bitter line. She wore mourning black, not for Alara, but for the embarrassment Alara had caused her. Varek turned to the crowd, his oily smile widening. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Lot 47, Alara Virel, aged 23, previously of the Virel household. He gestured toward her with a flourish, as if she were livestock. Now, I must be transparent. This one comes with complications. A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. She has been declared cursed by Madame Corva herself, Varek continued, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. Born under a blood moon. Stillborn livestock. A winter that refused to end. The signs were undeniable. Her wolf is dormant, some say dead. She has never shifted. She will bear no heirs. She is, in the language of our trade, defective goods. Alara's knees buckled slightly, but the chains kept her upright. She stared at the crowd, her vision blurring with unshed tears. Faces twisted in disgust. Mothers pulled their children away. Merchants whispered behind their hands. In the werewolf world of Moonfall Kingdom, where survival depended on pack strength and bloodline purity, a cursed, wolfless woman was worse than dead. She was a ghost. 300 silver marks. A voice called from the back. A brothel keeper, his face scarred and leering. 500. Another voice, this one from a labor master who worked the quarries. Alara closed her eyes. She had known this moment would come. Her parents had told her as much the night before, when they'd locked her in the cellar and Garrick had said, "You've been nothing but bad luck since the day you were born. Tomorrow, you become someone else's problem." 3,000 silver marks, shouted a man in a stained coat, a tavern owner from the border towns, known for his cruelty. Varek raised his gavel, grinning. 3,000 silver marks. Going once. The crowd stirred. Going twice. Suddenly, the great ironwood doors of the market exploded inward. The crash echoed like thunder. Splinters of wood flew through the air. Every head turned. Striding through the wreckage, flanked by 6 armored wolves in midnight cloaks, was a man who made the entire market fall silent. Alpha King Alaric Blackthorn. He was a legend made flesh. Tall, broad-shouldered, with long dark hair tied back and a thick beard that framed a face carved from fury and ice. His black cloak billowed behind him, the silver clasp at his throat bearing the sigil of the crescent moon. His eyes, pale gray, almost silver, swept the crowd with a kind of authority that made grown men step back. At his side was Sir Darian Wolfheart, his captain, a man nearly as imposing, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Varric's grin faltered. "Your Majesty, this is an unexpected." Alaric's voice cut through the air like a blade. 500,000 gold sovereigns. The market went deathly silent. Alara's head snapped up. She stared at the Alpha King, her heart pounding in her chest. Varric blinked. Your Majesty, I'm not sure I heard you correctly." "You heard me," Alaric said, his voice low and dangerous. 500,000 gold sovereigns. And if anyone here has an objection, they can take it up with my blade. His hand moved to the hilt of the long sword at his side. No one moved. No one breathed. Garrick stepped forward, his face flushed with shock and greed. "Your Majesty, with all due respect, she's cursed. She's wolfless. She'll bring you nothing but—" Alaric's gaze shifted to Garrick, and the man's words died in his throat. "I didn't ask for your opinion," Alaric said coldly. "I asked for her." He turned to Varric. "Release her. Now." Varric fumbled for his keys, his hands shaking. Sir Darian strode forward and unlocked Alara's shackles himself. They fell to the platform with a heavy clang. Alara swayed, her legs weak. Alaric moved toward her, and for a moment, she thought he would strike her. Instead, he removed his cloak and draped it over her shoulders. It was heavy, warm, and smelled of pine and steel. "You're no longer a possession," he said quietly, his voice meant only for her. "You are under my protection." Alara stared up at him, her breath catching. His eyes, those cold, silver eyes, softened just slightly. "Come," he said, offering his arm. She hesitated, then took it. As Sir Darian led her toward the carriage, Alara glanced back one last time. Her parents stood frozen, their faces twisted with confusion and rage. And for the first time in her life, Alara felt something she'd never dared to feel before. Hope. Alara's hands trembled as the iron shackles bit into her wrists. The rain was cold, but the shame was colder. She kept her eyes on the wooden platform beneath her feet, counting the knots in the grain, anything to avoid the eyes of the crowd gathering below. Don't look up. Don't give them the satisfaction. But memory had claws, and it dragged her back. She was 7 years old again, standing in the kitchen of the Verrell farmhouse. Her mother, Maelys, loomed over her with a wooden spoon, her face twisted in disgust. "You broke it," Maelys shrieked, holding up the shattered remains of a porcelain plate. "Do you know how much this cost? Do you know what people will say when they see we can't even keep our things intact?" I didn't mean to," Alara's small voice cracked. The spoon came down hard across her knuckles. Once. Twice. 3 times. The pain was sharp, white-hot. "You're cursed," Maelys hissed, her breath reeking of wine. "The moment you were born, everything in this house started dying. The livestock, the crops, your brother." Her voice broke on the last word, but there was no grief in it, only venom. "You took him from me. You took everything." Alara's father, Garrick, stood in the doorway, watching. He didn't intervene. He never did. "Get to the cellar," he said flatly. "You don't eat tonight." The memory shifted. She was 12 now, her body weak and gaunt from months of medicine her mother forced down her throat every morning. "Drink it," Maelys commanded, holding a wooden cup filled with thick, bitter liquid. "It'll help your wolf wake up." The healer said so. Alara gagged as the substance burned down her throat. It tasted like ash and rot. She didn't know then that it wasn't medicine at all. It was poison, carefully measured to keep her wolf dormant, to keep her weak. "She's still not shifting," Garrick muttered from the corner, arms crossed. "She's 16 and she's useless. The other girls her age are already being courted. What are we supposed to do with this?" "We wait," Maelys said coldly. And if she doesn't shift by 20, we sell her. Alara's stomach dropped. Sell me? You heard me. Melis turned away, dismissing her like a broken tool. You're a burden, Alara. At least as a servant. You'll be worth something. The years blurred together. Beatings for breathing too loudly. Starvation for talking back. Isolation in the cellar for days at a time, where the only sound was the drip of water and her own ragged breathing. And then, 2 nights ago, Garrick had come to the cellar door with a lantern. Tomorrow, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. We're taking you to Ashenvale. Varric Duskren is hosting an auction. You'll be sold to whoever bids highest. Alara had looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. I'm your daughter. Garrick's laugh was harsh, bitter. You stopped being my daughter the day you were born under that blood moon. You're a curse, Alara. And tomorrow, you become someone else's problem. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed her whole. Now, standing on the auction block, those words echoed in her skull. You're a curse. Varric Duskren's voice slithered through the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Lot 47, Alara Varel. 23 years old. Wolfless. Cursed. But functional, I assure you. Perfect for manual labor or other uses. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Cruel, mocking laughter. Alara's chest tightened. She wanted to scream, to run, but the chains held her in place. Do I hear an opening bid? Varric's smile was predatory. Come now, she's worth something. Silence. Then, from the back, 200 silver marks. 500, another voice called. 1,000. A man with a scarred face and hungry eyes stepped forward. I'll take her for the quarries. Alara's breath hitched. The quarries were a death sentence. She'd heard the stories, workers broken, discarded, forgotten. 1,500, a brothel keeper grinning. 3,000, the tavern owner from the border, known for his brutality, raised his hand. Varric's gavel rose. 3,000 silver marks. An excellent offer. Going once. Alara's vision blurred. This was it. This was how her life ended. Going twice. The doors exploded inward. The crash echoed like the wrath of the gods themselves. And through the smoke and splinters walked a man who made the entire world hold its breath. The Alpha King had arrived. The Alpha King's cloak was heavy on Alara's shoulders, heavier than anything she'd ever worn. It smelled of pine forests and winter storms, of power she couldn't comprehend. As Sir Darian guided her down the platform steps, her legs nearly gave out. Steady, Darian murmured, his grip firm but not cruel. It was the gentlest touch she'd felt in years. Behind them, the market had erupted into chaos. Voices overlapped, questions shouted, but no one dared approach. The Alpha King's presence was a wall of authority that none would breach. Alara glanced back once. Her father stood frozen, his face pale. Her mother's mouth hung open, her eyes wide with disbelief and something else, fear. Good. Let them be afraid. The carriage waiting outside was black lacquered wood with silver fittings, pulled by 4 massive gray horses. Darian opened the door, and Alara hesitated. It's all right, he said quietly. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign on her tongue. She climbed inside. The interior was lined with deep burgundy velvet, warm and impossibly soft. She'd never sat on anything like it. For a moment, she just stared, afraid to touch anything, afraid it would vanish. The king entered after her, filling the space with his presence. He was even more imposing up close, broad-shouldered, his jaw set, his silver eyes unreadable. He sat across from her and the door closed. Silence stretched between them. Alara pulled the cloak tighter around herself, suddenly aware of how filthy she was. Her hair was matted, her skin smudged with dirt and bruises. She probably smelled like the cellar, damp stone and despair. Why? The words slipped out before she could stop it. Her voice was hoarse, broken. Alaric's gaze sharpened. Why what? Why did you? She swallowed hard. Why did you buy me?
I'm cursed. I'm worthless.
Everyone knows it. His expression darkened.
Who told you that?
Everyone. Her hands twisted in the fabric of the cloak. My parents, the seer, the entire village. I was born under a blood moon. Animals died. Crops failed. My brother, her voice cracked. They said I killed him. They said I'm a blight. Alaric leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his gaze intense. And, do you believe them? Alara's throat tightened. It doesn't matter what I believe. It's what everyone knows. Then they're fools. The conviction in his voice startled her. She looked up, meeting his eyes for the first time. They weren't cold like she'd thought. They were fierce, burning with something she couldn't name. I don't understand, she whispered. You will. He sat back, his jaw tight. But first, you need to be examined by my healers. Panic flared in her chest. Examined?
Why?
What do you want from me? The truth. His voice was steady, controlled. Something about you doesn't add up, Alara Varel. And I intend to find out what it is. The carriage rolled through the gates of a Shenvale and onto the forest road. Through the window, Alara watched the market fade into the distance. She should have felt relief. Instead, dread coiled in her stomach. What if the healers confirmed it? What if they discovered she truly was defective, cursed, broken beyond repair? Would the Alpha King discard her like everyone else? Where are you taking me? She asked, her voice small. The Obsidian Keep. My seat of power. He glanced out the window, his expression unreadable. You'll have a room, food, clothing. Everything you need. And then we find out who you really are. The words hung in the air like a prophecy. Alara wanted to ask what he meant, but exhaustion suddenly crashed over her. The warmth of the carriage, the softness of the seat, the weight of the cloak, it was too much. Her eyes grew heavy. Sleep, Alaric said, his voice softer now. You're safe. She didn't mean to, but her body betrayed her, and darkness pulled her under. She woke to the sound of shouting. The carriage had stopped. Alara sat up, disoriented, her heart pounding. Outside, voices rose in anger. Shouldn't have interfered, Your Majesty. That girl is a liability. Alaric's voice cut through like steel. She is under my protection. That's the end of it. But the council answers to me. Alara pulled the curtain back slightly. They were in a courtyard surrounded by towering black stone walls. Guards in silver armor stood at attention. And facing Alaric was a woman in crimson robes, her face sharp and hostile. You've made a grave mistake, the woman hissed. Bringing that cursed creature here will destroy everything you've built. Alaric stepped closer, his presence radiating menace. If anyone lays a hand on her, they'll answer to me. Are we clear, counselor? The woman's jaw tightened, but she bowed stiffly. Crystal, Your Majesty. Alara's hands shook. Even here, she wasn't wanted. Even under the king's protection, she was still cursed. The carriage door opened. Darian stood there, his expression grim.
Come.
The healers are ready. Alara stepped down, her legs unsteady. The Obsidian Keep loomed above her. Massive, dark, ancient. It felt like a fortress. Or a prison. As she followed Darian inside, she felt eyes on her.
Dozens of them.
Servants whispered. Guards stared. No one smiled. They climbed a spiral staircase and entered a chamber filled with strange instruments, glass vials, silver needles, herbs hanging from the ceiling. 3 healers waited, their expressions professional but wary. Sit, the eldest one commanded, gesturing to a cushioned bench. Alara obeyed, her heart racing. The healer approached, placed cold fingers on her wrist, and closed her eyes. Magic pulsed through the air, ancient, probing, invasive. Minutes passed. Then the healer's eyes snapped open. Her face went pale. Your Majesty, she breathed, turning to Alaric, who stood in the doorway. You need to see this. Alaric entered, his expression sharp. What is it? The healer's hands trembled as she held up a vial of Alara's blood. It shimmered silver in the light. She's been poisoned, systematically, for years. The room went deathly silent. Alara's breath caught. What? The healer turned to her, pity in her eyes. Someone has been suppressing your wolf. This isn't a curse, child. This is attempted murder. The word hung in the air like a death sentence.
Poisoned.
Alara's vision swam. The chamber tilted, and she gripped the edge of the bench to keep from collapsing. That's impossible. My mother gave me medicine. She said it would help my wolf. It was never medicine. The healer's voice was gentle but firm. She held up the vial of shimmering blood again, turning it in the candlelight. This is moonshadow extract mixed with wraith's root. Both are banned substances used centuries ago to suppress royal bloodlines during coups. Whoever administered this knew exactly what they were doing. Alaric's presence filled the room like a gathering storm. How long? The healer met his gaze, her face grim. Based on the concentration in her system? Years. Possibly since childhood. They've been poisoning me since I was a child. Alara's voice cracked, rising with each word. Her hands trembled violently. My own parents? The memories crashed over her like waves. Every cup of bitter tea, every spoonful of tonic forced down her throat, every time Melis held her down while Garrick poured the foul liquid between her clenched teeth. Drink it, you stubborn girl. It's for your own good. The healer said this will fix you. Stop crying. You should be grateful we're even trying to help you. It was never help. It was slow execution. Alaric turned to Darian, who stood rigid by the door. Send riders. I want Garrick and Melis Varel brought to me.
Alive.
They have questions to answer. At once, Your Majesty. Darian's hand moved to his sword hilt, his expression murderous. Wait. Alara stood on shaking legs.
Why?
Why would they do this? I'm their daughter. You're not. The new voice came from the doorway. An elderly man in scholar's robes entered, his face lined with age and wisdom. He carried a leather-bound tome, its pages yellowed with time. Alaric's eyes narrowed. Master Aldrich. Explain. The scholar approached slowly, his gaze fixed on Alara with something like reverence. Your Majesty, I've been researching the old bloodlines as you requested, and I believe I've found something extraordinary. He opened the tome to a marked page. Alara saw an illustration, a massive silver wolf surrounded by stars and moonlight. Beneath it, elegant script in a language she didn't recognize. The silver wolf of Starborn, Aldrich said quietly. The lost royal line, massacred 23 years ago during Alpha Croft Duskran's coup. Every member of the family was slaughtered. Or so we believed. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs. What does that have to do with me? Aldrich looked at her with kind, sad eyes. The royal family had a newborn daughter. She vanished the night of the massacre. Many believed she died in the fires. But there were rumors, whispers of a loyal handmaiden who smuggled the infant away.
No.
Alara shook her head, backing away. No, that's not possible. I'm a Varel.
I'm Kerst.
You're Starborn. Alaric's voice cut through her panic. He moved closer, his silver eyes locked on hers. I suspected it the moment I saw you on that platform. Your scent, it's faint, buried under years of poison, but it's there. Pine and moonflower. The scent of the royal line. The room spun. Alara's legs gave out, but Alaric caught her before she hit the floor. His arms were solid, steady, anchoring her to reality when everything else was crumbling. This can't be real, she whispered against his chest.
I'm nobody.
I'm broken. You're the rightful heir to the Starborn throne. Aldrich's voice was filled with conviction. And if Croft Duskran discovers you're alive, he will stop at nothing to finish what he started. A cold dread settled in Alara's bones. He already knows, doesn't he? That's why my parents poisoned me. That's why they kept me weak. Alaric's jaw clenched. They were paid to keep you hidden, to keep you powerless. But they got greedy. They tried to sell you, thinking you were too broken to ever be a threat. But I survived. The words came out as a whisper. And now I'm here. Now you're under my protection. Alaric's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. And I will burn anyone who tries to harm you. Before Alara could respond, a commotion erupted in the courtyard below.
Shouting.
The clash of steel. Darian burst back into the chamber, his face urgent. Your Majesty, we have a problem. The Varels, they've fled Ashenvale. And there's more. Speak. Riders bearing Croft Duskran's banner were spotted near the southern border. They're heading this way. Darian's expression was grim. He knows she's here. The air left Alara's lungs. Alaric's hand moved to his sword. How many? Reports say 50. Maybe more. Darian's gaze flicked to Alara, then back to the king. They're not hiding their approach. This is a message. He's coming for me, Alara breathed. The man who murdered her family. The man who paid her parents to destroy her from within. The man who would stop at nothing to erase the Starborn line forever. Alaric turned to her, his expression fierce. Then let him come. But first, we need to awaken your wolf. Because when Croft Duskran arrives, you won't be running. You'll be ready to fight. Alara's hands clenched into fists. For the first time in her life, something stirred deep inside her. Not fear, but fury. How? She asked, her voice stronger now. The healer stepped forward, holding a small crystal vial filled with liquid moonlight. This will purge the poison from your system. But I must warn you, the awakening will be painful. Your wolf has been caged for 23 years. When she breaks free, she'll be savage, Alaric finished. His eyes met Alara's. Can you handle it? Alara thought of every beating, every insult, every moment she'd been told she was worthless. She thought of her murdered family, of a legacy stolen before she could even know it existed. Give it to me. The healer handed her the vial. Alara's hands shook as she uncorked it. Wait. Alaric's hand covered hers. Once you drink this, there's no going back. Your life changes forever. Alara met his gaze, her voice steady. My life was never mine to begin with. It's time I took it back. She raised the vial to her lips and drank. The liquid burned like liquid fire down her throat. Her body seized, convulsing. She collapsed to her knees, screaming as agony tore through every nerve. And deep inside, something ancient and furious began to wake. The pain lasted 3 days. 3 days of fire scorching through Alara's veins, of bones reshaping, of something wild and primal clawing its way to the surface. She screamed until her voice gave out, thrashed until the healers had to restrain her, and through it all, Alaric never left her side. When she finally woke, the world looked different. Sharper. Colors more vivid. Scents overwhelming. Pine, stone, leather, and something else. Something that smelled like home, though she'd never had one. Her wolf was awake. And she was furious.
Easy.
Alaric's voice cut through the haze. He sat beside her bed, his silver eyes watching her carefully. Your body needs time to adjust. Alara sat up slowly, her muscles screaming in protest. How long? 3 days. Darian's scouts tracked your parents to the Blackwood, the rogue territory beyond the northern border. They're hiding in an abandoned mining settlement.
His jaw tightened.
They know what's coming.
Good.
Let them know. Let them feel the same fear they'd made her live with for 23 years. When do we leave? Alaric studied her for a long moment. You don't have to come. I can handle. They poisoned me for 23 years. Alara's voice was steady, cold. I need to see their faces when they realize I'm not broken anymore. Something flickered in Alaric's eyes. Respect, perhaps. Then we leave at dawn. The Blackwood was aptly named. Ancient trees choked out the sunlight, their twisted branches creating a canopy so thick it felt like twilight even at midday. Alara rode beside Alaric, flanked by Darian and 6 royal guards. Her new wolf senses were overwhelming. She could hear everything: the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, the distant call of ravens, the nervous breathing of the guards behind her. She could smell rot and decay, old blood soaked into the earth. "This place is cursed," one guard muttered. "No," Alara said quietly. "Just forgotten." They found the mining settlement an hour later, a cluster of ramshackle buildings slowly being reclaimed by the forest. Smoke rose from one chimney. Someone was home. Alaric dismounted, his hand on his sword.
Darian.
Perimeter. No one leaves. "Yes, your majesty." Alara slid from her horse, her legs steadier than they'd been in years. Power hummed beneath her skin, coiled and ready. Her wolf wanted blood. Not yet, she told it.
Soon.
Alaric kicked open the door of the main building. It crashed against the wall, the sound echoing through the hollow space. Inside, Garrick and Melis Varel looked up from a meager meal, their faces draining of color. "No, Maelis breathe." "No, you're supposed to be broken." Alara stepped inside, and even she didn't recognize her own voice. It was colder, stronger. "Dead? Is that what you were hoping for?" Garrick scrambled backward, knocking over his chair. "Alara, wait. We can explain." "Explain?" Alaric's voice was deadly quiet as he moved to block the only exit. "Explain how you poisoned your own daughter for 2 decades? Explain how you sold her at auction like livestock?"
Please. I'm fascinated.
Melis's shock twisted into rage. She stood, her hands clenched into fists. "She was never our daughter. She was a burden we were paid to bear." "How much?" Alara demanded. "How much was I worth to you?" 5,000 gold sovereigns, Garrick said quickly, his voice pleading.
Per year.
"For keeping you hidden, keeping you weak. We were just following orders. We didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice." Alaric's hand moved to his sword. "You chose gold over a child's life." "She's not a child. She's a weapon." Melis shrieked. "Croft said if we didn't keep her suppressed, she'd destroy everything." The prophecy said the silver wolf would restore balance." Alara interrupted, her voice shaking with rage. "But you didn't care about prophecies. You cared about money." Garrick dropped to his knees, hands clasped.
Please. We're sorry.
"We'll leave the kingdom. You'll never see us again." "You're right. I won't." Alara looked at Alaric. "What's the punishment for attempted regicide?"
Death.
Alaric's voice was flat. "But I'll leave that decision to you." The weight of it settled on Alara's shoulders. One word, and they'd be executed. One word, and the people who'd tormented her for 23 years would cease to exist. Her wolf howled for their blood. But something else stirred inside her, something that refused to let them turn her into a killer. "No," she said finally. "Death is too easy. They don't deserve the mercy of a quick end." She stepped closer to her parents, and they both flinched.
Good.
"By my authority as star-born heir," Alara said, the words feeling strange but powerful on her tongue, "I strip you of your pack status. You are no longer wolves. You are no longer citizens of this kingdom. You are nothing." Alaric drew his blade. "Kneel." Garrick and Melis obeyed, trembling. Alaric pressed the flat of his sword against each of their foreheads, and Alara felt the magic pulse through the air, ancient, binding, absolute. The mark of their pack burned away, leaving them bare.
Severed.
Garrick gasped, clutching his chest. No, you can't. It's done." Alaric sheathed his sword. "You have until nightfall to be gone from these lands. If you're found within the borders of Moonfall Kingdom after that, the sentence is death. Do you understand?" Melis's face twisted with hatred. "You'll regret this. Croft will come for you, and when he does, I'll be waiting." Alara's voice was ice. "And unlike you, I won't hide." She turned and walked out, not looking back. Behind her, she heard Maylie sobbing, Garrick pleading uselessly with the guards. She didn't care. Outside, the air felt cleaner, lighter. Alara drew in a deep breath, feeling something shift inside her chest. Not quite peace, but the beginning of it. Alaric emerged a moment later, his expression unreadable. "How do you feel?" "Like I can finally breathe." She looked up at him. "Thank you for letting me choose. You're going to be a queen, Alara. Mercy and justice must walk hand in hand, or you become the thing you're fighting against." They mounted their horses and rode back toward the keep. Alara thought it was over, thought the worst was behind them. Then Darian appeared through the trees at full gallop, his face urgent. "Your Majesty, the keep is under siege." Alara's blood went cold. "What?" Croft Duskren didn't wait. "He's here. 800 wolves, siege engines, everything." Darian's horse danced nervously. "He's demanding Alara's surrender, or he'll burn the keep to the ground." Alaric's expression turned murderous. "How long do we have?" "Hours at most. The outer walls are holding, but—" A howl split the air, long, chilling, filled with malice. And in the distance, smoke began to rise above the treeline. The war had begun. They rode hard through the night, pushing the horses to their limits. By the time the Obsidian Keep came into view, dawn was breaking, and so were the outer defenses. Flames licked at the eastern tower. The air reeked of smoke and blood. Croft's army surrounded the keep like a noose, their howls echoing off the black stone walls. Through the western gate, Alaric commanded, "It's still clear." They thundered through just as the portcullis began to lower. Guards rushed to secure it behind them, their faces grim. Inside the courtyard, chaos reigned. Wounded soldiers were being carried to the healers' quarters. Servants ran with buckets of water to fight the fires. And standing on the ramparts, directing the defense, was a woman in crimson robes, the same counselor who'd protested Alara's arrival. Counselor Lystra. Alaric dismounted in one fluid motion. "Report." The woman descended the stone steps, her face carefully neutral. "Your Majesty." Croft arrived at midnight with his full force. He's demanded Alara Varel's surrender in exchange for withdrawing his army. "Absolutely not," Alaric said flatly. "With respect, Your Majesty, we're outnumbered 4-1. Our supplies won't last a week under siege. Perhaps if we negotiate." "Negotiate?" Alara slid from her horse, her legs shaking from exhaustion but her voice steady. "He murdered my entire family. There's nothing to negotiate." Lystra's gaze swept over Alara with barely concealed disdain. "You've been here 4 days, and already you've brought war to our doorstep. Perhaps it's you who should reconsider what's worth fighting for." "Enough." Alaric's voice cracked like a whip. "Alara stays. Prepare the inner defenses and double the guard rotations. We hold until reinforcements arrive from the eastern provinces." Lystra bowed stiffly. "As you command, Your Majesty." But as she turned away, Alara caught something in the woman's expression, a flicker of resentment so deep it bordered on hatred. The keep became a fortress within a fortress. Guards were posted at every entrance. Servants were questioned and searched. No one moved without scrutiny. Alara was given a chamber in the central tower, the most defensible position. But even there, surrounded by stone and steel, she felt exposed. That night, exhaustion finally dragged her under. She collapsed onto the bed, still wearing her travel-stained clothes, too tired to care. She dreamed of fire, of screaming, of a silver wolf running through moonlit forests, hunted by shadows with red eyes. "Run, little wolf.
Run or die."
She woke to hands around her throat. Alara's eyes snapped open. Above her, a figure in a dark cloak squeezed tighter, cutting off her air. She clawed at their arms, panic exploding in her chest.
"No.
Not like this. Not after everything." Her wolf erupted. Alara felt her bones shift, heard the sickening crack of her jaw elongating. Her hands became claws, partial, twisted, neither human nor wolf, but something in between. Power flooded her limbs. She roared. The assassin flew backward, slamming into the wall hard enough to crack stone. Alara rolled off the bed, landing on all fours, her body half-shifted and trembling with primal rage. The assassin scrambled up, yanking back their hood. It was a young man, barely 20, his face pale with terror. "Please, I didn't," she said. "You wouldn't fight."
Who?
Alara's voice came out distorted, more growl than speech. Before he could answer, the door burst open. Darian charged in with 4 guards, swords drawn. "Seize him," Darian commanded. The guards grabbed the assassin, who immediately started babbling. "I was paid. I swear I didn't want to," she said. "If I didn't do it, my family would." "Who paid you?" Darian demanded, pressing his blade to the man's throat. "See Counselor Lystra. She gave me poison, said to put it in the girl's wine. But when that didn't work, she told me to." The young man's words cut off with a wet gurgle. He convulsed once, blood foaming at his lips, then went still. "Poison tooth," Darian said grimly, checking the body. He bit down on it rather than talk. Alara forced herself to breathe, forced her body to shift back. The transformation was agony in reverse, bones grinding, muscles tearing, skin burning. She collapsed against the wall, gasping. "Alara." Alaric appeared in the doorway, his sword drawn, his eyes wild. He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her against him. "Are you hurt?"
I'm fine."
But she was shaking violently. "I shifted. You saved your life." His hands moved over her, checking for injuries. "Your wolf is strong. Stronger than you know." The assassin said Lystra sent him. Darian's voice was ice. "She's been working against us from the beginning." Alaric's expression turned murderous. "Find her. Now." But they were too late. The guards returned minutes later, grim-faced. "She's gone, Your Majesty. Her chambers are empty. And the western gate. Someone sabotaged the locks from the inside." "She's opened a path for Croft's forces," Alaric said, his voice deadly calm. The kind of calm that came before the storm. As if in answer, a horn blew, long, mournful, terrifying. Alara ran to the window. Her new wolf eyes saw clearly even in the pre-dawn darkness. Croft's army was moving, not attacking the walls, but pouring through the western gate. They were inside the keep. "Darian, evacuate the civilians to the inner sanctum," Alaric commanded, already moving. "Seal the throne room. That's where we make our stand." "Your Majesty, we can't hold them off." "We don't have to hold them off." Alaric looked at Alara, his expression fierce. "We just have to hold them until she's ready." "Ready?" Alara's heart hammered. "Ready for what?" "To become what you were always meant to be." He gripped her shoulders. "Your wolf is awake, but she's not whole. Not yet. You need to complete the transformation, fully shift into your true form." "I don't know how." "You will. When the moment comes, your instincts will guide you." He pressed something into her hand, a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon. "This was your mother's. Aldrich found it in the archives. Maybe it will help you remember who you are." The pendant was warm against her palm, thrumming with ancient magic. Below, the sounds of battle echoed through the corridors. Screams, the clash of steel, the savage howls of wolves tearing into each other. "They're coming," Darian said grimly, taking position by the door. Alaric drew his sword. "Then let them come." Alara clutched the pendant, feeling her wolf stir restlessly beneath her skin. She wasn't ready. She didn't know how to control this power. But she was out of time. The door exploded inward in a shower of splinters. And through the smoke and chaos stepped Alpha Croft Duskgrin, massive, scarred, his eyes burning with triumph and hatred. "Hello, little princess," he said, his voice like gravel. "Did you miss me?" Behind him, 50 wolves filled the corridor, their eyes glowing in the darkness. Alara's wolf howled with recognition. This was the man who'd murdered her family, who'd stolen her throne, who'd orchestrated her poisoning for 23 years. And now, he'd come to finish what he started. "Get behind me," Alaric commanded, stepping between Alara and Croft. His sword gleamed in the firelight, steady and lethal. Croft laughed, a sound like bones breaking. The noble king, protecting the ghost of a dead lineage. How touching. His eyes fixed on Alara, and she felt the weight of his hatred like a physical thing. "You should have stayed buried, little wolf. Your parents understood that. They kept you weak, kept you hidden, and you repaid them by stripping their status." "They poisoned me for you," Alara said, her voice stronger than she felt. "They sold me for you. They deserve worse than what they got." "Perhaps." Croft's smile was cruel. "But you deserve to die. Just like your mother. Just like your father. Just like every starborn who thought they could stand against me." He shifted, not fully, but enough. His form rippled, growing larger, his hands becoming claws, his face elongating into something between man and beast. Around him, his wolves mirrored the transformation.
"Now!"
Alaric roared. Darian and the guards surged forward, engaging Croft's forces in a brutal clash of steel and fong. The corridor became a nightmare of violence, blood spraying, bodies falling, the air thick with the smell of death. Alaric met Croft head-on, their swords ringing with each strike. But Alara could see it. Alaric was strong, but Croft was stronger, older, more experienced. And he had an army. They were going to lose.
"No."
Alara's wolf surged beneath her skin, desperate to break free, but something held it back.
"Fear."
Uncertainty. She didn't know how to let go, didn't know how to become what she was meant to be. "You're not ready," a voice whispered in her mind. "You'll fail, just like you've failed at everything else." A wolf broke through the melee, charging straight for her. Alara raised her arms defensively and froze. The wolf collapsed at her feet, whimpering. Not attacking.
"Submitting."
"What?" Alara breathed. Another wolf turned from the battle, drawn by something it couldn't resist. It approached her slowly, head bowed and knelt. Then another. And another.
"No."
Croft bellowed, breaking away from Alaric. "Don't you dare. She's nothing. She's the true heir." A new voice rang out. Master Aldrich appeared at the far end of the corridor, flanked by two guards carrying a wooden chest. Despite the chaos, despite the violence, the old scholar walked calmly forward, his eyes fixed on Alara. "The prophecy is awakening," he said, his voice carrying with ancient authority. "The silver wolf calls to her own." He opened the chest. Inside, nestled in velvet, were relics, a necklace of silver and moonstone, a sigil carved from pure starlight metal, and a crown so delicate it looked like it was woven from frost and dreams. "These belong to your mother, Queen Alindra Starborn," Aldrich said, lifting the necklace. The moonstone caught the light, glowing with inner fire. "And your father, King Aldian. They died protecting you. Died ensuring the line would survive." Alara's breath caught. She reached out with trembling fingers, touching the necklace. The moment her skin made contact, power exploded through her. Memories that weren't hers flooded her mind. A woman with silver hair singing a lullaby, her voice warm and loving. A man with kind eyes holding a baby, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Flames consuming a palace. Screaming. A handmaiden running through smoke, clutching an infant wrapped in silver cloth. "Live, little one. Live, and reclaim what was stolen." Alara gasped, tears streaming down her face. "They loved me. They died for you," Aldrich said gently. He placed the necklace around her throat, and it settled against her skin like it had always belonged there. "And now you must decide. Will you honor that sacrifice, or will you let Croft finish what he started?" Alara looked at the wolves kneeling around her, at Alaric fighting desperately against Croft's savage assault, at the keep burning around them. "I don't know how," The prophecy will show you. Aldrich held up an ancient scroll, its edges burned and fragile. The silver wolf shall rise when the moon bleeds red. She will unite the scattered, challenge the usurper, and restore the balance. But beware, her power can save the kingdom or destroy it. The choice lies in her heart. That's not helpful. Alara cried as another explosion rocked the keep. The prophecy isn't meant to be helpful, Aldrich said. It's meant to be true. And the truth is this, you are starborn. You are the silver wolf. And only you can end this. Alaric was losing ground. Croft had him backed against the wall, his claws drawing blood with each strike. Alaric, Alara screamed. He looked at her, his silver eyes fierce even in defeat. Remember what I told you. When the moment comes. Croft's claws raked across his chest. Alaric stumbled, blood soaking his tunic. No. Alara's scream shattered something inside her. Her wolf exploded to the surface, not the partial shift from before, but something bigger, more primal. Silver light erupted from her body, so bright it forced everyone to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Alara stood transformed. Not fully. Not yet. But close. Her eyes glowed silver. Her hair moved like liquid moonlight, and power radiated from her in waves that made even Croft's strongest wolves whimper and retreat.
Impossible. Croft breathed.
You shouldn't be able. The poison should have. The poison is gone, Alara said, and her voice carried the weight of centuries. And so is your time. She raised her hand, and the wolves that had been fighting for Croft turned. Drawn by her call, by her blood, by something ancient and undeniable. Luna's command, Aldrich whispered in awe. The power of the true queen. Stop. Croft roared at his wolves. I am your alpha. You obey. They obey the rightful heir, Alaric said, staggering to his feet despite his wounds. He looked at Alara, and something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, destiny. There's something you should know, Alaric said, his voice rough. About why I knew your scent. Why I couldn't let you be sold. What? Alara's power wavered, her concentration split. My grandmother was Alara Starborn, your mother's sister. She survived the massacre by marrying into the Blackthorn line. He pressed his hand to his bleeding chest. We're family, Alara. Distant, but real. The moon fated us to find each other. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. You knew? This whole time. I suspected. Aldrich confirmed it. His eyes held hers. But it doesn't matter. What matters is... The ceiling exploded. Stone rained down as something massive crashed through from above, a siege engine, its arms still loaded with pitch and flame. Everyone out. Darian screamed. But it was too late. The tower was collapsing. Alara watched in horror as the structure buckled. Alaric was directly beneath the falling debris, too wounded to move fast enough. Her wolf howled, and something inside her finally, completely, broke free. Silver light consumed everything. Alara felt her body change, not just partially, not just superficially, but fundamentally. Bones reshaped. Muscles expanded. Power unlike anything she'd ever imagined flooded through her. When the light faded, where Alara had stood was now a massive silver wolf, larger than any wolf in the kingdom, her fur shimmering like liquid moonlight, her eyes blazing with ancient power. The collapsing debris froze in midair, suspended by sheer force of will. Every wolf in the corridor, friend and foe alike, dropped to their knees, compelled by a force they couldn't resist. Even Croft fell, his face contorted with rage and fear. The silver wolf had awakened, and she was magnificent,